Hundreds of veterans have come forward after a CBS News investigation revealed new evidence of toxic material at a remote base the U.S. military used after 9/11. Now, according to the Defense Department, more than 15,000 American troops passed through the base known as K2 to support missions in nearby Afghanistan. Now, nearly 2,500 current and former service members report rare cancers or other illnesses they believe are linked to those deployments. Senior investigative correspondent Catherine Herridge recently spoke to one K2 veteran who says his illnesses have baffled doctors for years. She's at the Pentagon with more on this story. Catherine, it's got to be so scary and so unsettling to be ill and nobody can tell you what's wrong with you. Good morning. Hopefully you've got some answers.
Well, that's right, Gail. Good morning. Our investigation was cited during recent congressional testimony that's put new pressure on the VA and Defense Department to acknowledge a link between time served at the base and illness.
The air here is poison.
Army veteran Mark Jackson's deployment journal is a raw and unsettling account of his time overseas.
The ground and the dust that covers it is contaminated. Everywhere is decay and environmental degradation.
Jackson's journal documents his 10 months at Karshi-Khanabad, or K2. After 9/11, U.S. forces used the former Soviet air base in Uzbekistan to hunt al-Qaeda in nearby Afghanistan.
Every yellow tab is a day where I felt sick.
How many doctors have told you that your illness is related to toxic exposure?
At least 5 that I've spoken to. They believe that it has to do with the exposures and what they did to my body when I was in my 20s.
More than a dozen K2 veterans told CBS News about toxic conditions, from soil saturated with jet fuel, a running track marked with warning signs, to this site nicknamed Skittles Pond for its changing shade. 2 years after Jackson left K2, his health quickly deteriorated.
I went from being able to run a marathon to not being able to walk up a flight of stairs. Turns out my thyroid simply did not function. I was 28 years old.
Now the 43-year-old takes a cocktail of drugs to manage his symptoms and sees his doctors on a regular basis.
I see an oncologist once every 6 months just to make sure that nothing else has cropped up. That's why I call it a ticking time bomb.
A federal investigator by training, Jackson has gone to Capitol Hill to support a K2 veterans advocacy group, the Stronghold Freedom Foundation. On its Facebook page, members self-report rare cancers and other illnesses.
Just under 5,000 K2 veterans are members. Half have some sort of medical issue.
In October, our team revealed new evidence about K2's toxic history, and a Defense Department eyewitness came forward.
We learned that the Soviets had a chemical weapons decontamination unit adjacent to our camp.
The impact from the CBS investigation was immediate. We had hundreds more reach out to us, some of whom are very sick, and all of whom thought they were alone.
But neither the Defense Department nor the VA acknowledges a link between K2 and illness.
Is that a betrayal?
Of course it's a betrayal. They promised to take care of us after we raised our right hands and promised to take care of them.
Testimony you're about to give.
A recent congressional hearing cited the CBS News investigation that profiled a former Air Force mechanic and K2 veteran whose cancer caused brain damage.
Mr. Wilson rides 1.5 miles in a mechanical wheelchair twice a week to attend his physical therapy appointments.
In a rare show of bipartisanship, lawmakers pressed the VA and Defense Department witnesses on the lack of action.
These veterans need help, and they need it now.
The VA's continued denial has left hundreds, if not thousands, of K2 veterans ineligible for certain preventative health programs and unable to receive a disability benefit.
While a long-term study is ongoing, the VA maintains there is not enough scientific evidence to make the connection.
It would be a disservice to the veterans to simply say, and this is all veterans, to simply say, we don't know how you got it, we're just going to cover it. My office looks at the science. I want to find out what the exposures were.
U.S. forces left K2 in 2005. Satellite images from earlier this year show the area where troops worked and slept appears abandoned.
The most telling part of that to me is that in 15 years, the Uzbeks haven't moved a stone.
Why?
They know it's poison. Why else wouldn't they use half of their own base?
While 6 pieces of legislation are pending, Jackson says the acting defense secretary and VA secretary can take action on their own.
Help. You can help us. This is a cry for recognition. Recognize our sacrifice. We are still sacrificing.
A senior Pentagon official tells CBS News that the acting Secretary of Defense is considering a number of options to provide immediate help to the K-2 veterans with the goal of addressing their issues in the coming weeks, Tony.
So glad we're covering this, and those satellite images certainly catch your attention. Catherine, thank you very much.
You're welcome.